2, 1. Right?
Live.
Hello everyone. Good morning, students. So welcome to Civilsdaily. This is News Streaks of 6th January 2024. I am your host Venus Avtani, and today we are live early in the morning because there is another live session going to be at around 11:30. But I hope you enjoy the session today, because in the morning, the first event you should look at is your newspapers. That is ultimately important. So today in this Hindu as well as Indian Express analysis, we'll look at the most important news first of all, the most important topics. Then I'll take you through the entire newspaper, people. Why? Because that will give you an analysis that how do you utilize your newspapers and how do you further connect your newspapers with your static portions, along with covering the most important news, people. So that's our objective today. You can say hello in the comment boxes or good morning. So welcome here. Let's start our news. So the first news is about antimicrobial resistance. Why? Look, read here. There has been a report, there has been a survey basically of multiple sites. And based on that, the survey conducted under the guidance of Ministry of Health, it has come out that there is this 70% of patients who actually went to tertiary care, more than 50% have been prescribed the AMR, and many of them have been prescribed the AMR for just preventive purposes. Matlab, that means the antibiotic medicines, people, they have been prescribed for random purposes, for just prevention of the disease, rather than as for just prevention rather than as a cure, even before you develop the disease based on some symptoms and so on and so forth. And that's a very problematic aspect, people. By the way, are you aware about the aspects here that have you seen in your daily life that what happens when you develop a fever? Do you go for conducting a blood test, or do you go to a laboratory for further diagnosing the situation, or just you go to a chemist shop, a pharmacy shop, to take out a medicine, to just ask for them a medicine and then take medicines without any prescription? So this is what generally happens in India, that we often use pharmacies as a form without even any thinking. There is a lot of mindless popping up of pills here, and this is related to your entire GS paper portion to issues related to education and health. So issues related to health, and apart from that, it has also convergences with environmental portion also. So all of the dimensions we'll look at. But first of all, just let's try to understand, apart from this popping up of pills, Acha, first tell me, what do you mean by antibiotics, or what do you mean by antibiotic resistance? Anyone, aspirants, anyone can answer what do you mean by antibiotics or antibiotic resistance? What are we discussing about? Basically, what happens? Look, there are in your body, there are millions and billions of bacteria, right? And many of them are good bacteria, many of them are bad bacteria. But what happens here, when you develop a disease, when a bacteria attacks your body, a bad bacteria attacks your body, then what happens? You need medicines here. But because of the natural process of evolution, what happens in the natural process of evolution? Your mechanisms, your microorganisms, every microorganism of the earth keeps on evolving. So it has multiple mutations in its genetic material. Now, many of these mutations are waste, but rarely some of them are able to have a mechanism alternate to the medicine here, somehow dealing with the effect of medicine, and then this medicine is not able to kill this bacteria, and these type of bacteria, they become antibiotic resistant. And now, what is the cause? I mean, why this is related to exactly mindless popping up of pills? Because why it is leading to popping up of pills, people? Because when you have this, when there is this mutation, you are actually easing up the process of mutation, of evolution, by taking up the antibiotics mindlessly, by having more number of dosages at frequent levels, by mindless proliferating of antibiotics even when that disease has not impacted you. So this causes antibiotic resistance, people, and this further promotes your antibiotic resistance. Now, what could be the causes? The causes could be anywhere where you use antibiotics, people. Can you tell where you use antibiotics? Acha, just one term before it. Uh, hello. So yes. So just tell me, people. So in that, how is it like? Have you heard of a term called cholesterol? What is it? It is related to government had banned this medicine, the cholesterol medicine. What it is related to, if any of you can answer, just tell me. So what happens here? Inside causes, look what happens, there is mindless popping that causes. But then apart from that, antibiotics are used up in multiple industries, like in poultry industry for raising up of chickens. है ना? For raising up of chickens, what happens? Chickens are kept in very unhygienic conditions, and then they are given antibiotics mindlessly just to prevent any disease so that we can cut them and eat them finally. So what happens? These antibiotics then go to human body, and then they cause antibiotic resistance, because you're naturally, because whenever you use antibiotics mindlessly, that will definitely cause resistance. So this happens. Other than this, there is in medicines also, in pharma sector, what happens? The medicines have to be manufactured somewhere. You might be aware, India is the hub of manufacturing of medicines, particularly generic medicines, Tarun, है ना? So what happens, Tarun, here then? There is this manufacturing of medicine, suppose in a factory or an industry. Then they release the medical waste without any regulations, following of regulations, in the nearby river. So the news of this had cropped up in Hyderabad also some years back. So what happens? Then this residues somehow impact the agri sector on growing up of crops nearby, or human beings can consume this water, or animals can consume, and all of them, that forms a cycle. Finally it goes into the human body and then causes antibiotic resistance. So we need to understand that apart from regulating the pharma sector, the pharmacist, the chemist shop, apart from having awareness about mindless popping, apart from that, there are multiple sectors involved here. And this is how, people, it is related to. Yes, Tarun, you're right, it was discovered in Hyderabad, Musi and Panchkula river. So that is why this is related to one health approach of World Health Organization. What is meant by one health approach, people? That the health of not just human beings, but of the animals also, the plants also, all of that is related in nature. And that's why this should be taken into continuum as a whole, rather than in the form of fragments. That is what is meant by one health approach, people. Now, in this context, are we able to understand what are the causes here? Or should I explain it further? I think we should move forward to the next aspect. Now, how should we discuss the next aspect? Here we discussed about the causes. But then, apart from the causes, what are the steps taken by multiple authorities here? That we need to discuss. So, what are the steps taken by India? First of all, Acha, tell me, these are multiple sectors here. Let us try to just guess here, from guess here only, that okay, we need to regulate pharmacists. So we need to have awareness. We need to have surveillance. If on medicines itself we write something, that might be good, है ना, to regulate this. Now, has the government done something in this regard? People, have you heard of red line campaign of Indian government? The red line campaign. Can you just explain in short what is this red line campaign regarding antibiotics? Then I'll further explain that what have been the steps taken by Indian government. For example, India had its national health policy. National health policy year, people, recent times, just a few years back. When did the national health policy come up, people? If any one of you can answer, just answer me. So what happened here? In national health policy, there was development of regulations and guidelines which were mentioned in your national health policy regarding the antimicrobial resistance. And on these lines, because this policy gave some regulations, so in the same year, we also had a dedicated plan. Because आपको कुछ भी life में overtake करना हो, कुछ भी tackle करना हो, you should have a plan. You have a plan for your UPSC preparation, right? So here we have a national action plan on antimicrobial resistance. And you have to tell me the year, people, of policy. Tarun, red color on medicine. Yes, yes, yes. That's so red line campaign. What is it? So on your drugs, there is, regarding antibiotics, there is often mentioned a red line indicating to patients, indicating to common masses that look, these are the antibiotics, and that you don't have to take without a doctor's prescription. Simple. Only that much of steps, and that was so simple, still so elegant. So that was there. Then apart from that, national action plan on microbial antimicrobial resistance. Tarun, Chandan, can you answer what was the year of national health policy of India, or national action plan on antimicrobial resistance? What was the year? So what will this plan say? That look, there are multiple government agencies involved here. What is the scenario? There is incidence of animals, there is incidence of these plants, there is incidence of these pharmacies, there is incidence of health ministry. So multiple government agencies in which they should cooperate with each other, involving all these sectors, and then try to prescribe the consumer behavior, and then try to change the consumer behavior, because this is all about consumer behavior, behavior in poultry sector, behavior in pharmacy, behavior in medicine, manufacturing of medicine, and so on and so forth. So because you see, what are the years? There is this national health policy 2017, and this also came up in 2017. So that is there. Now, so this was the steps overall taken regarding medicines, regarding awareness, and regarding one more question I had asked about colistin. So this was a drug actually which was used in the poultry sector, as I had explained, in the cattle, livestock, poultry sector, and that was finally banned. Why? Because so much of chicken, so much of poultry, if it will be polluted in the sense that it will consume, it will have so much of antibiotics, then it will of course cause problems for the people of India, for people, it will cause health problems. That is that. But compared to this, now compare this scenario to the international scenario, to just remember some quick pointers for your prelims exam. Now, how do we do that? Now, this for government efforts, for the efforts at domestic level, we have red line plan. Do we have any measure for surveillance of the medicines, for surveillance of antibiotics at the international level? The answer is yes. How do we have those mechanisms? Simple. Remember just one keyword called glass. What do we mean by glass? Global antimicrobial resistance and use surveillance system. Do write it, people, write it down. Global antimicrobial resistance and use surveillance system. What is meant by it? It was launched in 2014, and this means that the WHO will try to incorporate data here, multiple types of data regarding use and surveillance of AMR in the entire food chain, in environment, etc. Because first of all, if you have to tackle any sort of phenomena, people, you'll have to have surveillance of it, and this is what we are trying to do here for surveillance. Now, apart from that, are there any other such initiatives, people? Are you able to recall any other such initiatives taken by WHO or any other party? Because just like we have, yes, Tarun, this class is regular, generally at 11 a.m., but today we are conducting it early. So, welcome. So yes, that's there. Now, regarding and further to have one-to-one session with me regarding your current affairs strategy, you can also fill the form below. So just like there is this action plan by the Indian government at national level, are there any action plan at the global level? There should be, of course. There's a dedicated body called WHO for universal health. So there should be an action plan, right? And that's why we have global action plan on antimicrobial resistance. What is this keyword? Gap. Just remember these two things. You might have seen multiple, initiatives in news, this initiative, that initiative. Just remember two right now to develop some base: gap and glass. You are putting a gap inside the glass ceiling of antimicrobial resistance. That's just a trick, a lame trick. Global action plan on antimicrobial resistance. When did it come up? It came up in 2015, and it came up with the help of World Health Assembly, and it was related to multi-sectoral action plans to curb the use of antimicrobial resistance. And that's it. That's it. Here our topic gets finished. Now we'll not discuss anything beyond in this antimicrobial resistance. First of all, just consume all of it we have discussed right now. And then for the next time when we'll discuss antimicrobial resistance, I'll tell further keywords apart from gap and glass, which you can follow later on in the future also. So that so that you go step by step. You don't remember everything in one day. This doesn't happen. Let's move forward. What is the next news? So this is the editorial about the examination system. Now, R. Srinivasan written here, he has written a very beautiful article explaining the examination system. So most of us here might be college graduates, mainly. How many of you are from school? So people here, Chandan, Tarun, you might have been into college, you might have given exams. What happens? There's a uniform standard of exam. Entire branch people, entire batch people give the same exam that is centralized. You don't know what is happening behind the process. There's no transparency how the examinations are, how the question papers are made or what are the criterias many times. So there's no transparency. So there are two hallmarks. He's saying that there are two hallmarks: secrecy and standardization. But he's criticizing both of these. Now apply your mind, people. If I have a lot of secrecy in making of the question paper, I am not revealing the criteria, or there is too much of standardization, then what can be the ills of it? Look, what will be the ills of it? So, what will be the ills basically? That you are having this, standardization many times in colleges, like if it used to happen in mine, the question papers used to get repeated. You just solve it from previous years. Only some questions can be changed, and then others will get repeated. So, what will happen? Uh, and there's no process of holding the people who are making the exams accountable. So it just used to be for the sake of exam, you are taking the exam, but there's no focus on outcome based approach. There's no focus on learning, how much learning has happened. The exams often just take up your knowledge in terms of factual data, but there is little emphasis on understanding part. So all of this we are not able to understand. Although there are practicals also. So this author, this writer may not be completely right in the sense that there are practicals, lab tests, so on and so on, multiple things. But still, he is right in the sense that secrecy and standardization are there. But what he's saying, as per the 21st century scenario, when learning is so decentralized that you can get all the factual knowledge from Google itself, you have multiple aids of instruments. You don't need to ratify anything. There is need for understanding. There is need for focus on outcomes. There is need for focus on thinking and skills, and particularly on skills. Why? Because if you don't have skills, how would you get a job, people? Industry academia partnership is necessary. So all as per that, the examination process should be overhauled. And this is what the writer is saying. And this is very important. You need to save this entire paragraph of your newspaper for your further reference, because this is a very nice paragraph. In essay regarding education, it will help. In GS paper 2 regarding issues related to education, it will directly help. In other aspects, wherever you can mention that education needs to be overhauled, it will directly help you. What it is saying, that look, we have to have minimum standards, we have to specify minimum standards, and then we have to have a curriculum and pedagogy designed, and that should also have research in it. Research should be vibrant. There should be focus on the skills here. We should have continuous assessment, people. Acha, there is something, anything related to continuous assessments in national education policy? Yes, Tarun, there was an article yesterday in which I had told that the gap due to large number of private colleges coming, UGC and others are not able to regulate all of them, and they are just becoming exam giving institutions. So yes, higher number of colleges and institutions without focus on quality is also impacting. You can connect it directly to this article, that no number of colleges is more, quality is less. That means examination process is not that relevant as per today's time. So national education policy also has mentioned, and it has tried to have its steps recommended, that we should have continuous assessments rather than one exam at the end of the year in March, April, May. You have four exams, but you continuously assess the progress of the student, so that just like passing of the budget, there is no March rush to students. Just like the expenditure and budget, Just like that, there used to be March rush of students that we need to reduce. That students are not just studying after December, January, they are studying throughout the year and they are studying relevant things. We are having assessment in continuous ways. So this has been, in India, this has been earlier also tried, but there are some gaps. So this was there. Then there should be proper assessment, documentation, and submission of assessment and evaluation. And most importantly, because technology has evolved, students do use technology. So we should have in assessment the component of technology. That means setting up of question papers should be standardized in terms of what should be the content of it. How will you standardize the evolution? Like many exams now are conducted based on portal, on computer based tests are conducted in various competitive exams. But this should also be thought of in the college education system, because that is still based on paper and pen. Now in that, there is a lot of subjectivity, people, as we say about UPSC also, there's all lot of subjectivity in marks, in all of that. So that can be done in this regard. So this was the write up. This was the write up, today's write up. But in this context, I wanted to ask you, do you remember the national education policy or the basic features of the policy, people? What are the basic features of national education policy? And particularly with respect to higher education, what has the national education policy mentioned here? Why, higher education, multiple issues are there. Till you tell up the basic features or components of national education policy, you can type in anything, people, either the features of national education policy or the features of national education policy in higher education. You type anything and we'll discuss that in the comment boxes, that what are the features here. I want answers just to understand that what. Yes, thank you, Abhinav. So, what are the features regarding national education policy in higher education? Can you recall any of it, or in education? What was the agenda basically? So that you try to discuss. Till then, I'll tell you about higher education. That how higher education is suffering from multiple ills. And in this context, that is why we had certain things in national education policy, and then we'll connect all of that into one story. So now imagine there's a student, this is you, you are about to take admission into a college, and you are into a college. Now imagine what problems did you see at that point of time? Were the number of students, are the overall number of students in India, in the entire nation in colleges, that is proportion, or is that substantial in nature? Is it almost equal to what you had the number of students in schools? Do all the students or majority of students passing from class 12th going to colleges? The answer is an absolute no. Why? Because as per All India Survey on Higher Education, the enrollment ratio is around 27% in colleges. Slightly higher, 0.1, 0.2% in terms of females. But look, this is so marginal in number. And the enrollment ratio itself is telling a lot of stories. Stories about what? Lack of infrastructure. How? You go to any tier 2, tier 3 town, and you look the state of infrastructure in the colleges there. It is shabby. Apart from IITs and NITs and AIMS and premier institutions, there are very few institutions having high quality infrastructure, who conduct, who have regular attendance of their students. There are DU and other institutions also involved here. So there is regular attendance here, and the teaching quality there is sufficient, or there is proper avenues of research here. Research is in a very shabby condition in national, in our higher education institutions. So all of these aspects are suffering. Apart from the fact that there are multiple problems in terms of people having higher education degrees. Why? Look, enrollment ratio is less. Now, many of these students also are actually poor. They'll not be able to complete their degrees. They'll drop out in between. So there needed some policies here. And that is why our higher education policy came up with multiple solutions. What was the multiple solutions regarding higher education policy by national education policy regarding higher education? So what is there? 24%, yes, subpar infra, yes. So what is this? There should be a holistic, multidisciplinary focus. Earlier, what was there? Look, I can take arts, I can take commerce, I can take I have BTech, I have multiple branches. But now we are focusing on multidisciplinary type of education, because all the disciplines of the world, they are somehow interrelated. And if you break the barriers between them, there is more focus on outcomes. You can easily improve the outcomes of education. So that is why we are having multiple education. And look, there is this dropout issue. How will you now prevent people, or how will you enable them to complete their degrees? Suppose a student has an academic issue, a financial issue, he dropped out. Now let us bring them back through a system called academic bank of credits. That means they can anytime, suppose they had a drop of 1 year, 2 year, they can, but still for the time period they completed their degree, they'll have some credits that will be in their academic bank, DigiLocker probably. And then that will be calculated when they come back, they resume. They don't have to resume it from first year, they can resume after the credits. They can earn credits after whatever they have earned, and then they can complete the degree covering the rest of the time period. So that is there. Now after that, look, we discuss research is very poor. So how will you have proper research? You have to fund, na? Fund the research. How will you fund it? You have National Research Foundation here for fostering a strong ecosystem of research. This is what we are having, people. Now in this, look, there are so many problems, but how did these problems were not solved? Were we not having regulatory bodies earlier? Were we not having any system of regulation earlier? This is not possible in a country like India. Yes, Abhinav. So there is institutional autonomy. Now we are focusing on in the new education policy. How we are focusing on institutional autonomy by categorizing multiple institutes. Like these are research institutes, these are colleges, these are universities. And then we are trying to ensure that the curriculum is not decided by the government. They are autonomous in their functioning. And then apart from that, we are having National Research Foundation. Yes. So, Abhinav, apart from that, what was the earlier regulatory body? What was the name of regulatory body which was earlier, or it is right now also? I have already written it. So just comment, what is the regulatory body for, having regulation on higher education? What is the regulatory body for, regulation of universities? Just tell me. Till then, I'll reach the next point. So, what is the next point? Then you see there is need for inclusion. As you can see, dropouts are more. Only 27% people enrolled around. So, what do we need? We need inclusion. How do we need inclusion? How do we have it? We teach people in their own language. So, there is focus on Indian languages now. That look will teach people in their own languages rather than teaching them through English education. So that is there. And regarding the body, University Grants Commission was earlier the body. Now we'll have called Higher Education Commission of India for regulation and streamlining of all these regulations. So this is the overall aspirants. You can remember it this much. Regarding the national education policy overall, that I'll also explain someday. But as of now, just remember that much. So let's move through the newspaper further. This is about the news about trafficking from Sundarbans and how women are not accepted. But all these news, I'll just tell how do you utilize them in your papers in the end. But before that, just have a detailed discussion of something from Indian Express also, so that we are able to cover the newspaper holistically. And then towards the end, when I cover the discussion, then I'll discuss about these type of issues, that how do you utilize your news in multiple papers. So look, there are two articles in Indian Express, long articles about Dhaka. So what is the news? Look, on February, there are elections about to happen in Pakistan and Bangladesh both. So both of them are in news. Bangladesh, there are elections about to happen in Pakistan also. February 8 is the date. So there are about to have elections. So now this has cropped up an issue regarding India-Bangladesh relations vis-a-vis the political forces. Because what happens in Bangladesh, there are two forces. There is Bangladesh Nationalist Party and there is Awami League. Bangladesh Nationalist Party is led by Khalida Zia. Awami League is led by Sheikh Hasina. These are pro-India because of the history, and these are anti-India. So this is the overall scenario. Now in this, apart from that, do we need to discuss anything other than this, people? Is politics asked in UPSC? I would bet no, politics is not asked. But still, if you want to know out of curiosity, or if you have PSI or optional, then I would just suggest that I have made an entire video on this. Entire video on this topic has been made by me. You just type on Google Civilsdaily IAS India Bangladesh or Civilsdaily IAS at the heart of conflict. So there's an entire video where I have explained this entire history, that how come there was after 1971 war, we had the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's government, then he was assassinated, and then we had the military general there, that came up, and then during that point of time in 1975 we had the issue related to Ganga, sharing of Ganga waters, because we constructed a Farakka barrage here, that I had discussed. Then apart from that, I had further discussed that how did the issue went in 1980s, change of government and so on and so forth. And then during Colonel Irshad's time, we had formation of SARC in 1980s. What was the inspiration for formation of SARC? That I had discussed. And then apart from that, I had also discussed about the formation of these two parties, Bangladesh Nationalist Party and Awami League. And then how did the military rule end there? Both these parties locked their horns with the military, so democracy finally came up. But then whenever Bangladesh Nationalist Party comes up, they have linkages with Jamaat-e-Islami and other Islamist factions, and they have their linkages with the remnants of the Indo-Bangladesh war, who are pro-Pakistanis probably, because they focus more on their Islamist identity rather than the Bengali identity. So this happens. But compared to this, Sheikh Hasina, because she is the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh, who had also cooperated with India for formation of Bangladesh based on Bangladeshi identity. So that is why Sheikh Hasina is often pro-India. She is mostly pro-India and her party also. But there is again problem here. Why? Because she has been accused of promoting anti-democratic measures, like you might have heard just sometimes back there was prosecution of Muhammad Yunus. He had, he's a Nobel laureate in Bangladesh. He had promoted women self-help groups, the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, and still he was prosecuted out of labor laws. So it is said that there is crackdown on the opposition completely, and there are no free and fair elections vis-a-vis Bangladesh. And external players have also cropped up here. How the external players have cropped up? Because looking at the entire scenario, the West got its point. So the US is now trying to interfere, saying that Bangladesh is not conducting free and fair elections and they should do so, and so on and so forth. And they are trying to have the influence there. Because you understand, this is India, this is Bangladesh, this is so close to the Siliguri corridor. What is the other name of Siliguri corridor, people? Can you explain what is the other name of Siliguri corridor? Anyone can comment. So this is so close to Siliguri corridor. And Siliguri corridor is a very narrow stretch joining Indian mainland with the Northeast India. So if you have influence in Bangladesh, you can somehow arm twist Indians also regarding the Khalistan issue. So this is somehow the motivation of USA as it is being observed in the present times. But for your exam, just this much was to understand that there's one point that political factors, just like in Maldives, which is happening right now, India out or India in, one faction comes in, they say India out. Another faction comes in, say they say we'll cooperate with India. Just like that, in Bangladesh also, political factors and presence of China is impacting. So it is pan South Asia. Yes, Tarun, right? So Siliguri corridor is also called as chicken's neck because of its narrowness. Because the way it is narrow, just like a neck of chicken. This is there. So that is there. A lot of chickens are coming up in today's analysis. So that was there. Apart from that, there is one other important news. Now, you might have heard of fundamental rights, people. The parliament, the people serving in the armed forces or paramilitary, they are not allowed that freedom of right to speech and expression. They don't have freedom. Central government, parliament can anytime curtail their right to freedom of speech and expression. But here comes a dilemma. What about the retired army personnel? What about those who have already retired? Can they publish any book of their choice? Can they reveal the secrets here? So this is the discussion here, because there's this former Chief General M. Narvane. His book excerpts are now coming up in news right now. So in this regard, there are army rules about serving personnel, but not about retired personnel. And here is a catch, that there are rules about, that serving personnel cannot publish a book, and then service information and service subjects cannot be released. But what about the retired personnel? And till this point of time, like till a few years ago, there was nothing about retired personnel, literally not even a single word. But then through a rule, when there was some incidents observed, then government had some rules based on Central Civil Service Pension Rules 1972. These were amended in 2021. And what was said? Look, these are Central Civil Service 1972 rules. We amended them in 2021. And now, even because these rules are not related to armed forces, if you see, these are not related to armed forces. Still, these rules were amended to the extent that they now include even the retired army personnel here. And even the retired army personnel have to ask for permission from the central government before releasing anything. So there are certain rules. So now tell me, good question can be framed from this army article. Yes, Tarun, that is why we are discussing it, about the army rules, and then about the central civil service, personal rules. That although in the original act, in the original rules, there was no ambit of armed personnel. This was about civil service, which is different than army. But still, in the amendment later on, which happened in 2021, these army personnel have been brought up into ambit. And this is what has been written here, that the amended rules bear retired government servants who have served even in intelligence or security related organizations for publishing any information related to organization without prior permission. And other than that, the other retired civil servants who are not in security or who are not worked in security related organizations or intelligence, they can publish their book freely. So this is the scenario here. And apart from that, how do you connect it with your mains paper? This is related to GS paper 2, freedom of speech and expression of armed service personnel. This is also related to your security aspects of GS paper 3, that how does it, can it compromise the security of India? Can it compromise the security of any security subject here who are still serving in the army? That is there. And how can publishing of a book, if suppose it happens without a permission, then how can it impact overall security? And how do you draw a balance between both of these? So this is related to that topic, people. Yes, Tarun, that's very right. So many articles are related. Just like we had discussed yesterday, also that there is this Kerala Urban News Commission news, which is linked to the article Someday Black regarding slums. That the position with respect to slums through Rajya Sabha debates also we can discuss, that the position and the news, the opinion with respect to slums has changed from 1970s to 2014, 15. Yes, this is very right. So these are how you need to draw the interlinkages, and you can further, utilize the interlinkages for your exam purposes. Because one editorial generally forms only one point of view for you to mention in the exam. Now coming back to rest of the newspaper people, let's discuss very quickly things here. Let's discuss that how can you utilize it. Like this article, DigiYatra, there's an initiative when you go to an airport and you check in earlier or even present times. What is there? You have to show your ID, they'll match it with your Aadhaar, they'll match your ticket, then you'll send yourself to computer, then you'll be, having your photo, like there, they'll capture your photo, they'll match it with your Aadhaar. There are multiple clearances here. Now you can bypass them through the help of registering for DigiYatra. And then what will happen? Just while boarding in, just while going inside the airport at the time of entry, you have to show your ticket. And then along with ticket, you have to, they'll scan your ticket on the machine. And because of DigiYatra, already there is information. So you are let in. How is it leading to good ease of doing business? Because it is reducing travel time. You might be knowing, in airports, you have to go 2 hours, 3 hours earlier. How many of you have traveled in airplanes, people? How many of you have traveled by flight earlier? So these type of problems you might have seen. If there is a flight for 7 a.m. in morning, you have to go to 4, you have to reach at 4 a.m. in the airport. It becomes so grueling. So that is there. But now what is the article saying here? That the DigiYatra, apart from DigiYatra also, flyers don't know that, but that they might be signing unknowingly for DigiYatra. But this is happening. This is what the article is saying. Now, how do you connect it to your exam? This is related to your GS paper 2, right to privacy as a part of right to life, in terms of the evolving technology, how the right to life is changing. And then this is also about informed consent, that the people are not giving their informed consent. They don't know what they are signing up for. They don't know what are the terms and conditions. So yes, 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 Abhinav, that's right. The hassle-free check-ins. So this is the problem here. This is how the article is related. It is actually also related to GS paper 3 security perspective. Why? Because this DigiYatra, suppose this is, let's forget about privacy at one, just let's forget about privacy for 1 second. What is happening here? You are trying to have people who are logging in, their credentials are online. Now you know the all the information, who is traveling outside, who is coming in, and then you can easily, if someone is running out of country, if some, like suppose Vijay Mallya is running out of the country, you can easily know fugitive economic offender, or some terrorist is trying to come back into country for some purposes, utilization of airports for security, causing security situations, all of that can be captured. So this is why government is so persistent on it, but this is the issue, people. So did we understand where we had to overall utilize it? The next is Navy thwarting its attempts in Arabian Sea. So for those who are not that, who might have missed this news, I'll just explain it a little bit. What is happening? Look, this is Arabian Gulf here. There is this Gulf of Suez here. There is this Bab al Mandeb here between Egypt and the Arabian Gulf. This is Saudi Arabia. This is the African countries here, like Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, seed countries, basically Djibouti here. There is Djibouti. So in this Red Sea portion, this is the Red Sea, and there is Bab el Mandeb. So what was happening? Now there are Houthis. You might be aware of Houthis, people. Houthis, they are funded by Iran. Houthis are also Shias. Iran is also Shia. Iran tries to have its Shia crescent and tries to impact the politics of Middle East. Iran is favoring Palestinians in the Israel-Palestine war. So what is now there? Iran will promote its, these type of militants, combatants. Now these militants, what they are doing? Whatever ships are coming out into the Red Sea, this is Gulf of Suez. Majority of the trade of the world passes through Gulf of Suez. This is an important choke point, people. Just like you can choke the breath of a person by capturing their neck, just like that, you can choke the entire trade of the world by capturing some important choke points like Gulf of Suez. So this is an important choke point. All the ships pass through here. And if the Houthi militants capture ships in this region by piracy, by having a drone attack, if they try to impact the trade here, the entire trade is impacted. And what they are saying, we are doing it because Israel is committing atrocities on Palestinians. So until and unless Israel stop doing this, we will continue this. They try to say that, look, all these ships have somehow interconnections with Israelis, indirectly or directly owned by Israelis, or any such excuses. And this is what is impacting the overall situation. So in this region of the world, in Red Sea, multiple countries have their presence. So responding to this, what is their uh, yes, yes, yes. So that's a nice incident you are telling. So this is what happens. So in response to this, now what will the countries do, like US, India, who have substantial trade passing through this region? US had in return, in response, launched Operation Prosperity Guardian. Do know the countries also of this, people? What are the countries of this operation further? There are multiple countries, but India, I think, is not a part of it. You can check it once again. Indian Navy is also escorting its ship here for trade. So somehow these countries are trying to preserve their trade. But this is not the major issue. This is related to prelims, whatever we have discussed. But what to capture the theme out of it? What is the theme here? The theme is hybrid warfare. What do we mean by hybrid warfare, people? Hybrid, that means mixed. You know, just like you have mixed varieties in agriculture, not pure varieties. So here also hybrid. Traditional war, forces of A country fighting forces of B country. Hybrid war, there is country A, terrorist supported by B country somewhere randomly. They are having some random attacks and running out. Or Naxalites, they are doing some guerrilla attacks here or running out. Likewise, these are hybrid warfare activities committed by Houthis. So now you are observing around the world. Earlier, what was happening? India has been a victim of hybrid wars from decades. We have been a victim of Pakistani's terrorist policy, thousand cuts policy. So we have been a victim of that. But the world had not witnessed it till the world had the 9/11 attacks. So terrorist attacks were famous. It was said that now you'll not have conventional warfare. But we have conventional warfare in recent times. Look, we have Russia Ukraine war. Sea lines of communication. Yes, this is part of the choke point of Suez Canal, is part of sea lines of communication. That is part of that. So we have Russia Ukraine war. So Tarun, answer me. Russia Ukraine war, is it conventional or non conventional? It is conventional. Now, what is happening? Now there are conventional war is combining with hybrid warfare, because conventional, there is Israel Palestine war going on. Israel is attacking, like Israel is having attacks in Gaza. And now it is combining with Houthi militants, Hezbollahs in Lebanon, and so on and so forth. So this is how the paradigm of security is changing, people. And that is what we need to just capture as a broader theme. The next news in the Hindu is related to India's GDP. It is being said that India's GDP is estimated to grow by 7.3% compared to 7.2% as per NSO data. Now, in this, they are saying that yes, signals are positive. This is related to your Indian economy, issues related to economic development, growth, etc. But there is a cause of worry also here, because this is what government is saying. But what is the editorial, or what are the journalists saying up, or what is the other opinion here? So there is this other opinion also here, stating that yes, there is growth which is bound to be positive because of the investments which might come up. But these investments right now are being promoted or are being funded by the government. And these investments are right now not being funded by the private sector. And investments in private sector will only be funded when, first of all, you have good ease of doing business, Hannah Tarun, and we have also consumption by the people. Because in today's time, exports, you can grow little by exports. There is war going on here. How can you grow from exports? So this is what is being said regarding NSO data in Indian Express, that look, there are concerns with respect to investment activity, and unless and until investment activity also grows, there will be difficulty in growing up of this growth further. This is the idea, people. This was what was being said here. So we discussed the initial pages of the Hindu overall about the crisis. VVPATs I have already discussed in one of my earlier discussions also. So I'll leave it there. This point, that women being trafficked out of Sundarbans, they are not accepted into the society. This you can mention in your GS1 portions, issues related to women and role of women's organizations, that how women's organizations should be promoted here to help reintegrate the women, and how mindset should change with respect to women being considered as victims also, rather than being women being perpetrated as she might be having her own mistake for being trafficking. This doesn't happen. So this you can also mention in your essay portions. So basically, essay women is the one of the famous topics for essay, favorite topics for UPSC. So there you can mention this about Bangalore's language conundrum, that there is some protest and there are some activities, violent activities in Bangalore going about some language and symbols. So this is related to your language issue, and this is related to post-independence history portion, people. How it is related to post-independence history, Nitin? Have you heard about, Nitin, have you read in post-independence history about language and state-based reorganization based on language? There was a famous committee after which multiple states were formed based on language. So, what is the name of this committee, people? I have already written the hint. You can mention in the comment boxes. What was the committee? Ponchi Commission is related to center-state relations, Tarun. That is different. This committee belongs to 1950s, I think 1956. So this is about state-based reorganization. That states were demanding, hey, give us our own state based on our own language. Center first was resisting, but then center agreed that yes, apart from convenience of administration and other aspects, we should also have language as one of the aspects. So after that only, after that reorganization and recommendation of committee, this was Fazlali Commission. After that only, we had coming up of multiple states people based on the language issue. So this is there, this we have discussed. And then this is about Israel putting a post-war plan for Gaza. What they'll try to do, they will try to promote the civil committees to assume power once they withdraw from Gaza. They have already destroyed most of the Gaza. So that is there. This will further see, because look, the war is still going on. So anyways, news will come up in future. So no need to worry right now. This is about Donald Trump. Again, Donald Trump will remain in news again and again. People, we can discuss it anytime in the future, because elections will go on. Elections are bound to happen in 2024 in US also, apart from India. So again, that's not a problem area that we'll discuss. So most of the Hindu we have discussed, important news of Indian Express and Hindu also we have discussed in detail. So yes, Nitin, very nice. You have read about post-independence history. So regarding this initiative, whatever you want to further discuss, people, you can discuss with me, and you can put in the comment boxes. You can also comment below whatever you want in future to be discussed, topics, etc. Any strategy, and to ask my strategy from me, or to just connect with me regarding your current affairs strategy. You can also just fill in the form below, and I'll connect with you based on the details below. So thank you so much, people. Signing it off, and thank you for having trust in us. And